8,
You're watching
7,
Experience Comic Culture and Sales.
5,
Streaming live daily to
4,
Facebook, YouTube,
3,
Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Hi, everybody. It's time for Talkin Shop. I know that last time we talked to this amazing creator, he dropped some bombs that I didn't remember about him that everyone was like, what? And we didn't get to really go into the deep dive of that. Plus, other stuff has happened since we last got to talk to him. Everyone, please welcome my good friends, Steph and Frank.
Hey, guys. Hey, Jen.
Hello.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
So you kind of blew everyone's minds last time we talked because I had somehow not made the true connection to you being part of the creation of pretty much all of our childhoods. And I just kind of wonder when you're out and about at when you're doing signings and those kinds of things, how many people come to see you just specifically for that?
I'm gonna assume you're thinking about like the Iron Giant or something like that. Yeah. A lot. I mean, like, honestly, if I had like a nickel for every time somebody told me the Iron Giant is their favorite movie and stuff like that, But what's pretty special with this movie is that because it didn't get like a big like theater release back in the days, it really found its audience at home, with people watching them together as families and stuff like that. And so it makes it, because there was not that big communal experience, it was just all about the family kind of unit and people, and so everybody has this very very personal relationship to it, and everybody feels like only the they're like, there's this movie that no one heard about, but we love it. It's called Iron Giant. And it's just like, no, I mean, like, everybody loves it, but it's just everybody has this very, very personal relationship with the movie, which is wonderful,
Yeah, it's I think that you're right about it really finding its feet in probably VHS video because I know my boys were raised on it, and I can remember being in hotels and there being just like end to end, just back to back. They just play it.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again. I can't remember what day it was. It might have even been like a New Year's Day kind of marathon thing. And I was like, this is so wonderful.
Oh yeah. It's so weird because like when we were working on it, I mean, we really had like some like a sense of mission a little bit in terms of, just speaking for me personally, my interest of the kind of stories you can tell with this art form of animation, and that the studios wouldn't necessarily let us do it, or even to this day, it's always a struggle, And I knew the world was ready for it. It's just the execs didn't quite get that, So we have really had a sense that we were doing something special and something that was meaningful. And but then, of course, the release didn't quite happen, and there was no promotions. So we just put this thing out, and it feels like it's just like disappears into the void, and you're like, well, that was weird, And then 6 months later, that's when you would go to like just strike up a conversation with somebody at a bar, and they would go like, have you heard about this thing, the Iron Giant? I was like, yes, it's just, it found its people, it found its way. It's crazy.
I think the thing that I'm surprised about the film is that they haven't made, even though it has had this giant popularity still to today, they haven't made very much what I call merchandise for it. Like, people are still clamoring to find that original, I don't know, maybe quarter scale, I think. Iron Giant toy that everyone,
I know, it's like it's a weirdly, it feels like it's an orphan movie from the studio's point of view, that every family in America has adopted. It's weird. It's I guess it's a weird analogy that I'm making. It's the first time those words actually come out of my mouth, but it does feel that way.
I think weirdly my favorite part is the fact that the bad guy agent ends up calling our main hero a different name every time, but not his own.
Yeah.
Words.
Yes.
And they're all very of the era names, right?
Yeah, there was a whole. Maybe I told you this before. I don't know. There was this whole sequence that I had animated that unfortunately had to be cut for time, but it was really funny. It was like it's right before they find the train tracks, and there's this kind of mini town hall that's happening, and basically right now it's just a couple of shots. And somebody says there's been something with the train, blah blah blah, and but originally it was a longer sequence, and it was Kent being like literally being an asshole to every single person in the room, and it was really funny. And so I had done some of that stuff, and then one day I was like, hey, we have some bad news. We need to cut for time. And that is true that was not advancing the story. It was just more of the same ideas, but just having fun with them.
We got the idea that he was a total pill. In today's culture, he would have been so canceled.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. That the thing was like a cancel fest before its time. He was just an asshole to everybody.
Right. What's so funny is that in his mind, he thought he was 100% right.
Yes, yeah, completely deluded into his mission.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I want to delve into all the cool graphic novels that you've been working on and have been out. Like I myself have been part of the Silver universe for a long time.
Yep.
Having found you way back in I don't know what year, San Diego Comic-Con, in your gorgeous booth, so beautiful.
No, thank you.
And the thing that we're getting excited about right now has it already been released at Abrams, the second volume, or right?
Yeah, it's this week. It's on Tuesday, so it'll be at your comic book store on Wednesday. It'll be everywhere books are sold. I have it right here. Here we go. Look at this.
Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous.
And let it be said, it blocks doors really nicely too.
I have to tell everybody, like, if you're not following Mr. Frank's, I always watch you on Facebook. You have so many really great videos of like procedure and kind of telling people how to do storytelling. And that is so rare in this industry. Like, people are so busy doing their things that they don't think about the next generation of creators, like how to explain to them what's the right way to tell a story and how to think about how it panels out and those kinds of things. How long have you been doing those?
Not that long ago. I mean, like for, I by the way, what you're saying, I think means, a lot to me, like in the sense that everything that I ever learned, I've learned it from like this transmission of a tradition, of a storytelling tradition from people who were either, older than me and I was teaching from them, or they were my age, but they were more talented, whatever the thing was, it's just learning from osmosis with, other people. And so, and especially in these days where everything becomes so isolated and remote and so on and so forth, I think so over the years, I've always had like a little bit of I've never been like an official teacher of any kind, but I've done master classes here and there. I do a lot of panels about storytelling at conventions where people, just have, a lot of questions. And the thing that I found is like going back to when I was a kid and I wanted to do, animation or comics and stuff. And it was very hard to find any information. And all the information that you'd find was it was interesting, but it was like they would sell you the shovel. They didn't tell you how to dig the hole, if you know what I mean. What I mean is just like a camera is like this, and then this is, and so many friends. That's interesting, but what about the craft itself? What about the storytelling itself? What about animation itself? What about what makes a comic page read? What makes how do you just like all that stuff? And that's what I'm trying to do with these things is like, and it came about as I was looking back through the book, because it's a series that I've done over a bunch of years, and I'm working a different series now, so it's just like I'm one full series, so I'm rediscovering it. I've been rediscovering it also myself, and when I'm looking at the thing, every time I say, oh yeah, here is there's an interesting point here, which is that when this happens and that happens, and then this means this means that, and I think it's very rare to have people go into really the nitty-gritty of how do you tell a story with pictures in a very specific way, which is something that I really I think, and you tend to have those I at least used to go through these conversations when you work in animation. Like, for instance, when I worked at Disney, like the first time, like pre-Marvel, I was really lucky to work with one of my heroes in animation, who was Glenn Keane, and working with him, for a while, and then you would do a sequence, we would storyboard a sequence, and sometimes you would spend 20 minutes looking at just 3 panels and really asking, okay, what does this mean? What is happening here? What does this drawing mean, right? And you would go like, well, he's opening the door. Yeah, but what does it mean? Like, I mean? Just like, what is the energy of it? What am I getting from it? Like, what are the, and so really trying to crack open really the craft of storytelling. And so, sorry, it's like very long answers about very short videos, but that's the thinking behind it.
I think I also love that. Because there's also been a lot of like just general classes instruction about such things, but the fact that you are showing specific examples about what you're saying about how movement moves between panels and storytelling, and like, what does the panel need to be there, or can it be implied? Is it furthering the story at all? All those things are so important to be able to see what you mean. It's like you could put a panel in here that does a thing, but does it need to be there?
Yes, absolutely. And so that's the thing you learn in that context, is not to be precious about, I've done this drawing and I'm happy with it, but is it the right drawing for this moment, And if it's not, then just save it for next time, there's always next time,
Oh, yeah. Is there a whole lot of difference between the way you approach a story that is going to be a graphic novel and one is going to be animated?
I would say that the biggest difference is the structure and the real estate of it. My graphic novels tend to be in four parts that, in a certain way, kind of in a lot of ways actually mirror like the 4 parts of a movie. Because typically your movie is in 4 parts. You have Act 1, then you have Act 2A, Act 2B, and then you have your Act 3, which is like the resolution. And so it's that's the natural structure since like Greek tragedy, you know what I mean? And so in terms of the overall shape and articulation of it, my stories tend to be that way, but then of course how expensive that gets, just in terms of page count or whatever, and also you can only put so much on a comic book page. So because there's it's like comic books are now, to me, graphic novel, they're not storyboards for movies. It's in own art form, which borrows to literature and books as much as it borrows from the visual and movie side. So you have the two together. So how in movies they always say show don't tell. And I think and sometimes you need to tell, don't show, even in movies. But I think the ratio of what you show and what you tell in a graphic novel is a little bit different, because you have this book element, and and also for instance, at the Silver, as is a heist movie. It's like big Ocean's 11 type, kind of structure, So at the end, when all the fake outs are being revealed and you revisit all these moments, boom, 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 and you understand, oh, this is what really happened. This is what that was. That's what this actually meant. All the fake outs are being revealed. So in a movie, you can intercut a series of like 2-second shots, you know what I mean? And you can burn through a bunch of images like this, right? A comic book page doesn't get that granular, if you're gonna, so because if you're gonna do that, then it would feel like you're slowing down the pace, because nothing on a comic book page reads like 20 frames of a movie. We're not that granular. It's bigger chunks of time in each panel. So you have to transfer some of that information into the spoken words of the character, right? So I think I would say that's the biggest difference. When it gets to like the bulk of it is the same, but when it gets to these extreme moments, then that's when the book side takes over or the movie side takes over, and they don't match entirely.
Yeah, I also thought it was kind of one of the other differences that I thought was neat about comic books is that for like passage of time, it's very simple to put one little block that says 6 months later, which I guess you can also do in movies. But for movies, the utility of them is that you can jump around in time, because then you've got a very different look and feel to the sets and clothing and all those kinds of things that are good cues that are probably a little harder to get people to glom onto in the just a regular graphic novel form, when all of a sudden it's like they turn a page and there's totally something different happening. They might be like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, no, I know. There's a lot of cues in the movies that really help you understand where you are, when you are, sound, music, obviously color, you could do that in a comic too, but so there's a lot of ways to kind of hold the audience's hand through those kind of non-linear moments and make it perfectly clear in a movie. And those are not easy to do in a comic, just again because the brush of time that you're painting with is not that granular,
Mm-hmm. So this is the second volume coming out through Abrams. So you've got experience already with the first round of books. Is that process been surprising to you about how the book market works versus the way comic book world works?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's less, in a certain way. So, I would say the book market is different from the traditional comics, releases in the sense, and this better than I do, but like how comics is very much what's coming out this week, right? Like there's your final order cut off and get your order now, because then it will never be rerun or whatever and stuff like that, right? So it's very the time, with the book market, with the way Abrams works and the way they distribute, it's more spread out in time, which is that you can go, there's no final order cutoff. You can go anytime to your distributor and ask for those books, and and so it's more on the it's more of a long run. It's not like this week and then we're moving on next week, right? So which I think is great, and in a weird way is how we approach the comic book market, because when I started doing comics was like 2014, so that's 10 something years ago. I was coming from animation, so people knew me from animation, but no one knew me in comics, and so we'd call like the stores, it was one con at a time, one store at a time, calling across, so it's almost like the old ways of they were distributing movies in the 30s, with like some like salesperson, would go from theater to theater, from Kansas to whatever, and go like, so I have a John Wayne movie, I have this movie, and you can have it for 3 weeks, and so it was been like, kind of opening, they would like even the big blockbusters all the way to the 80s, right? The big blockbusters, of the 80s, they would start by opening them 3 weeks in Detroit and Chicago, and then they would move on to whatever, And so due to our completely indie, and we were not in this big corporate pipeline, that's how we were doing it. So I sell yeah, I mean, now we don't no longer sell the, well, but like even when we're still selling the silver trades, we're still selling as many volume ones at the end as we were selling at the beginning. It's not like it was like boom, that flash in the pan. It's like so in a weird way, although we were not on the book trade, we were in the comics world, we were still approaching it with that more like that long run sort of slow rollout kind of vibe.
It's true. And the book is so great that so in the comic book world, when we have something that we like to keep on our graphic novel rack always, it's not something that we just like try once and then if it sells, great, we're done. We call those evergreens.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably what you're seeing when you see extra, like people's purchase of them is like they also see them the same way, that it's like, oh, this isn't of an era that I have to have it and then it's done.
Yeah.
It's like, this is something I can always, tell my friend, oh, have you read this yet? You should buy that.
Yep. You can always win Christmas, there's, that's, it's funny. That's the thing I've been telling people like recently is that, and maybe it's because book reading is such a personal thing and it's hard to buy a book for somebody else. And it's also something you do for yourself, because who doesn't want to get like a great book, and just on a rainy afternoon, just sit on your couch with a hot cocoa and just read your immersive, reread, the Watchmen, so, but it's also, it's an amazing gift if you have something that you found that maybe your friend that would love this and they don't know about it. Just what better gift than introduce them to a new world, open that door for them, so. And we don't think that way because reading books is such a personal thing, but that's what I've been talking to people about recently.
Yeah, it's a important thing, I think, especially as we start to see a lot of we've been seeing a lot of challenges to books where they've been being pulled from classrooms and libraries and things. And I just try to explain to, when I meet parents that are of the mind that there's things they don't want their kids to have access to, I'm like, that's great. I'm glad that you're being a parent and that's what we want everyone to be able to do. But I read everything. My parents didn't restrict me on anything.
Yeah.
And it like informed me about the overall world. It didn't make me a criminal because I was reading true crime, and it didn't make me a vampire because I read a vampire book. It's just like,
yeah, it's so ignorant, like this idea that the way forward is restricting people's knowledge, or exposure, or it's sad that it's there's certain things you would think we move past, but I guess what we haven't. It's a cycle. It comes back around, but I also think it's like you also need to know what book you're doing, who is it for, and just be consistent and clear about it. For instance, Silver is this big YA adventure. I have people, I have kids 8-9-year-old reading it, and they read it, they're fans, and they read it with their families too. And it's, if you talk about the Iron Giant, it's like a family thing, they read together. So when I'm doing Silver, I'm doing it a certain way because I know, and this is not talking down to anyone, it's super sophisticated. It's just like a Marvel movie is not a Scorsese movie in the sense of, they're not gonna shoot people in the head, you know what I mean? It's just not that movie, So, but meanwhile, when I do Palomino, that's an R-rated thing, and it is for adults, or older, teens, obviously, but you know what I'm saying? It's not for children. So, like when people come to my, my table, at shows, it's always like, well, if they have a kid, and it's just like, okay, so is it for you? Then anything you want. If it's for these guys here, then this is not for them. This is for them. This is for older people. I think as long as you're clear in terms of what series you're doing and it's consistent and makes sense and everything is in there for a reason, and as long as it's communicated right to people so they can make the informed decision. No one needs to force anybody to and ban anything. Just.
I agree. When last I talked to you, Palomino had just dropped. So I'm kind of interested in what the feedback you've been receiving from that series, which is awesome crime noir out of, LA, like you do.
The feeling that the feedback that I get from everybody is write faster, draw faster.
I can see that.
And so that's what I'm doing. So I'm actually way deep into laying out the ending of the story, which I'm super, super excited about. I wrote the script over the summer, and all the pieces just fit in, which is always a little bit of an anxiety when you have complex thread and stuff like that. You kind of know where it's going, but is it gonna fit? So really click into place in a way that makes perfect sense, and that and it does, if I may say so myself. In my opinion, it's really great. There's don't want to be spoilery about that ending because so much happens, but it's the whole thing kind of escalates, and it's really cool, and everything ties together, and it's really, really, I'm really excited. So I'm 85 pages into the layouts as of today, and yeah.
So I have like volume 1, 2, and 3. So how many more volumes?
Yeah,
that's the story.
So originally I thought it was going to be in 4. But the end becomes so action-packed, and that I think it's going to be 4 and 5. I think I'm going to need that real estate to finish the story without skimping on anything. So it's probably going to be, at this point, I don't see how they would change. Yeah, so I think it's going to be 2 more, and they will complete that story.
Perfect.
Which I don't know, and they may be released together, like we did 2 and 3, dropped at the same time, because they're like one big chunk of stuff. So it may be that, or it may be 4 and then 5, depending on the situation. We'll see.
Okay, so I think the answer to that is: do you leave everybody on a huge cliffhanger in 4, and will they riot if you don't give them 5 right away?
I will get more phone calls to draw and write faster, for sure.
That's got to feel good, right?
It feels great. It's funny. I was talking to somebody yesterday that said that when they were talking about Silver, the Silver 2 book, and they were saying this thing, beyond anything, is a page turner. You know what I mean? I just could not wait to turn the page to see what was going to happen. And so to me, that's the biggest compliment. Just like, because I'm trying for the books to be immersive and to really bring you on a journey and on a ride. And just to hear that people are signing on for the ride. It's just they're on it. It's great.
So my recollection was that there was another tied-in book to that Silver universe.
Oh yeah,
is that going to be available also for? Are you going to roll that out through Abrams too?
I don't. It's not on the Abrams collection. It's available through Dark Planet. So if people want to continue with the Silver universe, and so if people don't know, because I don't know, so Silver, as you know, is it's a world that is inspired by Bram Stoker's Dracula. And we are 40 years later into the noir pulp era of the 1930s, and you have this group of con men who team up with this woman who's a vampire hunter, to steal precious silver that's hidden in a castle that's full of vampires. What could go wrong, right? So it's this big. So it's a big adventure. It's a big pulp adventure in the form of a heist story. But the thing that I think I don't say enough, people always ask me about the blending of genres and stuff, and people ask, is there horror in it? And there's not per se horror in it. There's supernatural, but it's not horror anymore. The Indiana Jones has horror, or Pirates of the Caribbean have horror. It has supernatural, but really what it is, in my mind, it's a low, what you call it? Oh, I'm missing a word. low fantasy. I would say it's low fantasy, meaning by that it's not a thing that is super magical where people transform on a dime and stuff like that. It's more like Conan the Barbarian kind of vibe. There's this deep mythology, and it's that low fantasy, I guess, is the word I was looking for. And so because it has all these dimensions of this mythology, the woman who's the vampire hunter in silver, who's Sledge, aka Rosalind Van Helsing, we see just a little bit of her backstory in the second book, but that opened the door to me doing this whole other book called Rosalind, which is her diary as a child, which is her full-on origin story. And that's a really fun book because it is presented as a diary. So I think it has a unique presentation, and it's very gritty. So that one is a grittier story than Silver, which is more broad adventure. But it's also baked through the eyes of a child. So there's an innocence to it that makes it, in my mind, extra compelling.
Okay, we got to wrap up. I just want to remind everybody, this Silver Volume 2 is going to be released through Abrams. It's going to be this week. So you should still be able to connect with your local comic shop or a bookstore and let them know that you would like to have one. And it's don't freak out, because it looks like they'll be available so you can get them. You should definitely, if you can find Stefan at any convention, you should go and talk to him, because there's even more just like amazing storytelling. You can tell he's excited about what he does. I love when he reads his own work and be like, "Oh my gosh, this! I can remember this now."
It's true. I get excited.
It's a mark of an amazing writer, because to re-surprise yourself is pretty special. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Remember to like and share and subscribe so you don't ever miss any of these awesome interviews, and so you know what's coming up and don't miss any awesome books. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate your time as always.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, let's see you guys next.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
Welcome back. Man, we got a three-peat for you guys today. Some really amazing people on. I am so excited. Hey, Pastor Michael, how are you doing? I haven't seen you in a little while. Glad to see you on. All right, everyone, welcome my good friend, Victor Dedridge.
Hello.
Hello.
How are we doing today?
I'm doing so good.
Excellent.
I'm nervous as all get out because we're in Game 7.
Hey, listen, I understand that. I understand that life. I'm going to put that good energy out there for you. Let's go Astros. I got you.
Yes. It's so funny. I think that they did all the statistics, and Stros I think that they said that Stros never win Game 7, and our opponent always wins Game 7. So I'm like, well, there's a first time.
No, let's flip it around. Let's switch it around. Yeah, we don't need that kind of negativity out here. Come on.
So I was super, super bummed that I didn't go to New York Comic Con. I made the decision, and then a week out, I had real regret, like so much regret. Because one of the reasons was there was supposed to be a convention the next weekend that I was supposed to be doing the stuff you do, moderating the main stage, and like crazy stuff, and I was like nervous about doing it back to back. And then that con didn't make, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were missed, though. You were missed. Your presence as a true voice of the industry, you were absolutely missed. But sometimes you do have to kind of prioritize exactly what you're trying to do, what's important to you. So I get that. Next time, don't do that though. Come to the show anyway. It's New
I
York.
know. Although I do understand I kind of dodged a bullet because I guess not everyone, but a lot of people that went got the cooties.
Yeah. I mean, concrete is a thing. We already know that, but COVID is trying to make its comeback. Like it's a old school Marvel crossover. I don't even know what's going on with that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just oh, but it's Doctor Doom yet again. Da, da, da. Like it's kind of crazy. So yeah, luckily I came back with no illy willies or anything like that. So very, very lucky in that regard, because a lot of people that I did interact with did come back and was like, oh, I'm positive. I'm like, what's going on? So
terrifying.
Yes,
all right, I'm doing a scientific research. Did you go to the Saturday night Marvel party?
No, I did not. I've never been invited to one of those.
Me either.
I've never been invited to one of those. See, you know what? It's funny too, because one of my things moving forward, specifically in 2024, I want to host a party. Like that is one of my goals, is to host a party. It doesn't have to be a huge one, but you know what? I'm tired of waiting for the bigger guys to invite me. So I'm going to host my own party, and I'm going to invite y'all. Like that's how I'm doing it. So
do it. All right. What do you envision? What's your perfect party?
Okay, so my perfect party is limited budget expenditure. I'm not going to lie about that because I'm a small press guy. But what my goal would be is to rent out a bar, and everyone that shows up gets at least one free drink, and it's about a social mixer. Everything that we do would be branded. So as I've got, Vantage in-house stuff, you create comic stuff, geeking stuff, unconventional stuff, like everything would be branded, but it would be about people coming in and being introduced to my stuff and introduced to each other. That's my goal.
So very interactive, I'm guessing.
Very, 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 very interactive. Like that's absolutely what we would want. We would have a DJ, maybe visuals from some of my comics up. Like any of that stuff is the key. Like I basically want it to be a low-key party that everybody leaves and goes, that was cool. That was cool. That's it.
And I'm a cheap date because I haven't had a drink since like 1996. I always tell people, I'm your wingman. I will make sure you get back to your hotel/house alive.
That's what I'm talking about. See, now I love a Shirley Temple. That's my jam. So I'll be right there with you, because especially when I'm working. I never drink when I'm working, and I would definitely be working in that space. So Shirley Temple's pinkies up. That would be me.
Yeah, I carry around a tonic water. They're terrible.
I mean, if that's a reminder for you, like, yep, nope, don't do that. I'm good. Yeah, that's smart. Smart. I love it.
You are, as always, super, super busy. You've been making lots of announcements and making big moves.
Love it.
I did not realize that you had been doing so much time moderation. Has that been always something that's been on your docket of things you like to do?
No, not at all. Not at all. This is like when I started moderating, I fell into it. And this is one of those hidden gems. So if you are a comic creator that want to, kind of make a splash in a comic convention scene, heed my words on this one. Be the person that always says yes. Doesn't matter what it is, say yes. And when you do that, it puts you in a position, because I started off doing Comic-Cons as an exhibitor. Like I would, showcase my work, things like that. But the different, organizations that I work with, I would always go to them and go, is there anything that I can do for you? A lot of times as creators, we're like, what can you do for me? I'm like, what can I do for you? What do you need? Coffee, like something simple, stupid, whatever. And it started with Wizard World, where they were like, hey, would you co-host the drink and draw? Absolutely. Would you judge the cosplay contest? Sure. Am I a cosplayer? Absolutely not. But I'm doing it anyway. Bring some energy, have some fun. I went from judging the cosplay contest to co-hosting the cosplay contest. And in 2016, like literally, it was just yesterday, that it still kills me. 7 years ago yesterday, I got asked to host the very first celebrity panel, and it was Sebastian Stan. And we're talking 2016. This is Civil War, like, had just come out. He's the marquee guest, and they're like, hey, would you do that? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Who do you want me to do? And they're like, Sebastian Stan. I'm like, wait, what? You want me to? Okay. That was a highlight for me. Like I got to moderate Sebastian Stan and introduce Bill Shatner, and I've been moderating ever since.
Okay, so your moderating style, are you someone that does a lot of prep, does a bunch of research on the back end, has your questions written out, or are you more like a free flower?
I like to free flow, but I do like some background stuff so I can throw out something interesting. That's always my thing is I want to have a fun conversation because number one, it's always conversational. I hate like direct interviews, like I'm grilling somebody. And that's been very important because I've actually gotten to interview some people that on a social level have been on the hot seat, like, you know, Gina Carano. And there was a whole vibe when I was moderating for her. And I have a job to do, which is not to, you know, hit her with any sort of gotchas, no matter where I, you know, align myself politically or what have you. I'm supposed to make her look good. That's my job. So that's kind of the way I try to ride things. How can we have a conversation that you still look great and don't necessarily push those kinds of buttons? Because that's not the goal for me. And I learned that very early on. Evan Peters, which was like my second time moderating, 2016, November, we were in Pittsburgh, and a young lady asked who he's going to vote for the presidential election. And I'm like, nope, we're not talking about that. No politics. Let's just have fun. Let's just celebrate fandom and just leave politics out. So that's kind of always been a part of my shtick. Let's have conversations and enjoy ourselves.
I am 100% certain that celebrities have to have things in their pocket for answers for that, where they're just like, Pedro?
Pedro Pascal, of course, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's yeah. See, now we got double dips. It's not just Dynamite. We got Pedro Pascal. We can just throw that in there. Yeah, I like it.
Oh my goodness! And I know that you've been doing some really amazing teaching people how to do comic books.
Thank you for
getting
that.
them involved and hands-on ways. I've been always so amazed and proud of all the things you've been doing, and you've been, I feel like, ramping that.
Well, thank you for that. I've definitely been pushing my You Create Comics line a lot more as of lately. Part of the reason for that is I was a kid that didn't have those access points for comics when I was growing up. I wanted to, you know, have comics in the classroom, and we weren't allowed, and I hated it. And it hit me where, you know, as I started my career, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should make this. You know, I understand the value of comics in the classroom, and rather than just be this, you know, flagpole waving person, it's like, hey, no, I think this is a thing. Make stuff that shows it, you know. And the funniest story is the You Create line's origin lies in three very specific places. The first, there was a company that I was doing work for, freelance, that had a similar concept, except they weren't allowing the kids to make the comics. They would hire freelancers to actually do it. And I'm like, you missed it. Like, you missed the greatest part, which is to empower the kids to create stuff. You're kind of taking things from them, and you're putting a cool polish and spin on it by having some, you know, semi-pros do it. But how does that encourage the kids? You know, and that was the biggest thing that, like, I needed to kind of bring that back, and that's where the You Create line specifically came from. The other one, of course, is Richard Starking in his lettering guide, and Jeff Smith, the creator of Bone. So those three created the perfect storm that made me bring the You Create Comics line to life.
It's amazing.
So
if someone wanted to, that they were interested, because I'm sure we'll have teachers and people that you know, kids that they think might benefit from this kind of program, what's the right way for them to connect with you about that specifically?
You can definitely find me online through Instagram, Twitter, and actually our website at the letter U, CRE, the number 8, comics.com. And in fact, I'm going to throw my link tree in the private chat here, so that way you guys can share that, and it'll have access to all of the things that I do, from the You Create line to Vantage In-House to geeking to everything. But yeah, like, that's one of the biggest things for me, is to give teachers access. I actually wrote an ebook that is free to teachers called Teaching Teachers How to Bring Comics into the Classroom, because a lot of times there are teachers that want to do this. They've heard of comics. They are peripherally aware, but they don't know how. They don't know what things they can do with it. And I want to give them absolute free tools that they can use to, you know, kind of get started on that journey if they're not already comic book fans themselves.
Oh, it does take a lot of the fear out of it, especially at a time when we're seeing so many challenges in schools, in school libraries, about just books in general. Like, there's a general idea that things that people don't understand, they fear. I think this will clear things up a lot for them.
Absolutely, that's the goal. And I mean, and how funny is that? Like, that's the story of the X-Men. It has been the story of the X-Men since the beginning, and here we are living it all over again. So again, it's almost one of those weird things where you're like, comics in the classroom is almost ubiquitous. Like it's already there. We're just giving you the actual tools that showcase exactly what it is that you're trying to say. And too many parents that are out there that really want to lean into the challenge of what comics can bring, please do that. You know, there's a whole worlds that you'll get to experience by reading comics, and it's so much bigger than any band could ever kind of signify. Anybody that's worried about a band, read the book first. That's it. It's just that simple. Read it first. If you feel it's appropriate for your kid, give it to them.
I think there's also some studies that have been coming out that are indicating that kids that are that have a little reading difficulties, that comic books help because it encapsulates words in balloons, so it makes it short read and stops their eyes, and somehow it just is just easier for them to read as a material. So that's positive.
1,000,000%. In fact, some of the studies I've seen showcase that the visual narrative function of comics is being utilized in different industries. So like in the medical industry, if there's something that has happened to you, they're starting to roll out comics that kind of showcase what happened. So that way, if there's a language barrier, you don't have to speak the same language as me. Based on the pictures, I can say this happened, this happened, this happened, and it creates an understanding. And again, like, visual narration is the language of the future. It's no different than us using emojis. It's us using memes. Comics have been at the forefront of that from the beginning, and everyone else is just kind of catching up. So yeah, come on, y'all. Jump on and read these comics.
Spread the word, the love.
That's right.
So how is Vantage House doing? What is coming up next for it?
So earlier this year, I did my biggest Kickstarter ever by way of product, which was called the Big Bundle. We're doing 10 books through this imprint of mine, and it's huge. Like, we had our first run, which released 4 books. I'm actually lettering the final bits of the second run, which will take us up to 7 books. And by the end of the year, we should have our last bit, which will be the final 3. And it's a huge opportunity for me to kind of get these stories out. The way that I set up Vantage House is very different from a lot of other indie small press companies. And it's because they are self-contained titles that actually work together to create an overall continuity. I'm playing around with calling it the Viosphere. So that way people understand, like, no, you can read these books on their own and just enjoy them. But if you read all of them, you'll actually see that they all connect and they have different characters appear in different places to make things a little easier. I think in an interview before mine, you were talking about how age appropriateness in terms of readership is a huge thing. And that was a big thing for us. We wanted to create Vantage House with a sense of readership groups. So we have all ages, teen, young adult, mature. And the goal is that if I can get you as a young reader, as you get older, we have content that you can grow into, and you'll get to read it when you're age appropriate. So Vantage House will always be there for you as you grow as a reader, because that's how we built it.
So what are some of the titles? What is it? Is it superhero aimed, or does it have lots of different genre?
So it's so funny that you asked that. It's such a great question, because I normally would have just said superheroes because I love superheroes. As I have matured as a writer, what I've found is that superheroes is like this umbrella that is too easy to put everything into. I think that if I really look at my work, I can actually pin it into other things that the superhero genre kind of tackles. So with our all ages department, we've got Wonder Care Presents the Kindergartens, which is super fun, all age friendly. Like, it's a cartoon. It's essentially a cartoon in comic book form, which is all kinds of fun. Muppet Babies meets the Justice League. But then we followed that up with Wonders of the Weird and Beyond. And the fun part for me is when I say wonders in both titles, people are like, are they related? Yes, actually. The family and Wonders of the Weird, which is my love letter to the Fantastic Four, later on in life, after they've put away their superheroics and their adventuring, they start the school that the kindergartens are all going to. So there's part of that connective thread of the shared universe. But yeah, in the teen era, we've got Origins Unknown, and that one actually has 6 short stories where they're kind of explorations of what happens when you find out a hidden secret or heritage about yourself, and it's up to you to possibly save the world based on the information that you've gotten. And this one was a fun experiment because they're all first act stories. They stop with a mean cliffhanger, which I love. I love teasing people with that. But two of the stories are getting their own spinoff series. In fact, I'm actually lettering the first issue of one of those spinoffs called Gloriana Pax, and then the other one is Point of Authority: Family Ties, which I am lettering the third and final issue of that one. So like everything is just kind of building and growing for the YA side. And when I say young adult, because I separate teen and young adult is older, 16 plus is young adult to me. But that's The Trouble with Love, which you wonderfully reviewed for me, and I thoroughly appreciate that. Again, that one is a superhero story, but it's not. It's much more of a father-son slice of life conversational story. I mean, love gone wrong story, not necessarily fights and tight superheroes. So try to play around with different things with that. That has a sequel called Never Too Late, which I'm lettering the third issue of that. And we also have the Samaritan series, which again is a very mature title that is, urban take on superheroics, with a guy moves into a crime-ridden neighborhood and starts systematically cleaning it up. Very hands-on, very aggressive. So again, you get to grow. You get to grow with our books.
I love the thought process and making sure you can meet all the different audience members, because
thank you.
You're definitely going to have parents that want to have something, and they're teenagers that want something, and maybe they got younger siblings that they have something they can all read together. It's so important, because I think that kids look at what their parents are doing to get a cue for what they might want to do too.
Absolutely.
They become teenagers and then they're like, I don't want to do any of that.
That's why we give them something all on their own that they can kind of jump into. And it's, that's the fun as a creative. I have children myself, so I have a built-in test market. And my kids range from almost 21 years old to 6 years old. So I have a full gamut of folks. I'm like, read this. Is this you? Yeah. Okay, cool. We'll roll that out. We'll make that work. So yeah, I am also very fortunate that through my imprint, I signed a first look deal in 2021 with AHA Media. So everything that I'm publishing is up for consideration for movies, TV, video games, all kinds of fun stuff. And we do have some things already in the work that I'm not allowed to talk about, but I would highly recommend people start paying attention to Vantage In-House, because it's coming to you in multiple media forms.
I hope it causes lots of trouble.
From your lips. I cannot confirm nor deny that there would be trouble with anything, or if there's any wondrousness that's on the horizon. I can't, but it would be great if. You're
good at that.
Thank you.
Let's talk a tiny bit about work-life balance, because you just mentioned having a large family. Do you do a very good job of unplugging, or do you just draw all your family into what you're doing so it doesn't matter?
That's a tough one. It is a very odd sort of balance for things. Obviously, I've been doing this full time for the last 13 years. And luckily, with my kids mostly being in school, there is a very specific window that I have to work. It wasn't always that way, obviously. I was, a stay-at-home mogul, as I called it, with my youngest daughter for the longest time. She's in first grade now. But what I try to do is, one, I try to, involve the kids that they like to be. There was a stint where they would come with me to certain shows. My oldest daughter grew up under the table, as it were, when we would exhibit. And that's always a fun memory to be like, remember when you used to do that? And she's like, I used to sit in a basket and play. And I'm like, yes, you did. It was amazing. But it is good to be able to unplug. So, I use the things that I do now, the connections that I've made, to specifically boost family time. So I've got connects where I can see movies early. I'll take my kids to go see those, or we'll have a private screening of something before it technically comes out. And those are ways that I stay in touch with my kiddos, especially with being on the road as much. In July, I was home for like 6 days throughout the entire month because of all the conventions I was going to. But again, as dad, I make it known, like, the reason why I'm out doing this is because I'm trying to make sure I can take care of you guys, and make sure that the benefit of when I'm home is felt no matter what. So yeah, you got to have that balance, work when the kids aren't here, work when they're asleep. I average like maybe 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night. It's just what I do.
Your kids have to see you as a superhero, right? When they see
They kind of do.
Because not just everyone's, dad says, come on, we're going to go and we're going to watch a movie with Sebastian Stan.
I know him, right? Like, like, and that's the best part, truly, is getting to instill in them a sensibility that whatever your wildest dream is, go for it. I tease my oldest son all the time. He loves video games, and I'm like, why don't you make that your job? He's like, no, I don't want to. I'm like, listen, you have a rare breed parent that's telling you make video games your job because you like it. Like, that's the biggest thing for me is however my life can be an example to them, that's what I want.
That's amazing. Always support the kiddos. They can find out that where the things are going to work out for them or not, right? And you can't ever tell a kid, no one else makes this work. Because there's a lot of really brilliant people in our industry. We're told that a lot, and they were the one person that made it work, right? Absolutely.
Be the example. Be the thing that tells everybody else, yes, you can. I call myself the excuse killer for that very reason. So love that.
Oh, yeah. I love that you were everyone I talk to in the industry always says you're the most positive person, and you've earned the moniker hardest working person in comic books.
I try.
All the things you do. You really do. Sometimes I see those monikers to people. I'm like, going, I don't know about that.
I'll be honest. I was uncomfortable when it was bestowed upon me because that's a huge statement. But I will say that when I officially said that I earned it was when Neil Adams challenged me about it. And he walked up to me because I had a banner made and it said, hardest working man in comics. And he's walking by and he stops and he's like, I don't know. I don't think you are the hardest working man in comics. I think I am the hardest working man in comics. And off the cuff, I go, no, Neil, you're the best working man in comics. And he goes, you're right. Carry on. And I'm like, okay, nobody can challenge me now. I got Neil Adams to agree. Nobody can challenge me about this. That's it. The late, great Neil Adams.
Oh, he was such a joy to talk to all the time.
Absolutely. Wealth of knowledge. The man was just a library, living library.
Yeah, he could spin some crazy tales. Whenever we see each other in person sometime, remind me to tell you about the meeting the devil in an alleyway story he told me. Yeah.
Done and done. I'm writing that down right now. Yeah.
What is the project that you're most excited about that's coming out very soon that you want people to pay attention to and buy back with their dollars?
That will definitely be VIPs and self-publishing. The VIPs and self-publishing started off as a workshop, a discussion forum type thing that I did in 2013. So just 3 years after I started doing this, I had this workshop talk where I invited other creators to kind of gather up and say, let's share our cookbooks about what this experience of creating has been like. And I'll lead the way. I'll put myself on the chopping block and throw out the things that I think are making sense or not making sense. And I'm actually turning that finally after 10 years into a book. And that's going to be a big one because for me, being as open and honest as I possibly can to showcase what I think it means to win, what I think it means to lose, but lose gracefully and successfully, because sometimes things won't work. But if you learn from it, it's better than if it worked, because if it worked, you wouldn't have learned anything. Like sometimes that's the way it has to roll. So this book, and I was literally just working on it this afternoon, which it's all clicking and I love it. But it's going to be my biggest offering to anyone that's trying to get into the business or understand the business a little better, by saying these are all the things that I know, that I believe in, and I want you to have it so that you can do something, if not as good as mine, better than I've ever done.
Oh, that's awesome. So full of anecdotes and good stories, I'm guessing.
A couple of them, definitely. I might have coined some Pokemon terms in here. I'm thought. Listen, I'm gonna tell you, like I have there's a section in there where I coined a Pokemon called Thinkachu, and there's Thinkachu, and there's Ploddle, and there's Storeevi. Like this, there's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Speaks to us. I'm just trying to showcase the road that I've walked and allow it to make sure that it's easier for other people to travel.
Okay, you need to make as like some kind of incentive and like carry along and like prompts. Just make dumb cards that have those on them.
I love that. I absolutely love that. It's actually my wheelhouse. I don't know if you saw, I did this launch of these things that I call cardables, and it's taking my comics and making them into trading card size with a QR code on the back. And the goal here is to give these to kids so that they are actively collecting and engaging in comics again. I think that that's been something that we've kind of lost because we've made comics collectibles, and it's not fodder for little kids to just kind of delve into. But these cards, they're super cheap. You can get them, you like it, give it to your friend, they get to scan it, you get to share the reading experience together. And it's a purposeful loss leader on my part in order to get people reading. So, I like that idea of the card. So I'm all on that. So we in the right space.
Add it in. Chase that.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Victor. I can't wait to see you. I know we'll see you probably at San Diego. It's probably my
Definitely.
Next show.
No, we got to make it before then. Yeah, we got to make it before then.
Come to Comics Pro. Come to Comics Pro.
Okay. When is that one?
That's the professional organization meeting that happens in February.
In February.
Lots of creators come.
Is it in Portland?
It is in Pittsburgh.
Oh, I will definitely. That's just 3 hours. Oh yeah. Okay, I'll be there. I will be there. Yes. Consider it done.
You will be amongst all of it. Like that is like the top retailers that come, and then a bunch of the publishers. Is how we all shake hands and decide what we're buying for the next year.
I love that. No, then I need to be there. So consider it done.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate.
Thank you, Jen. Anytime. Thank you, guys.
Stick around. We got Austin Janowski next, and we'll have Vic back when he has some new cool things to tell us about. We'll find out what's going to be on the screen. See you guys.
I know, right?
And break.
And like freeze frame.
Oh my goodness gracious! I bet you we just caught our production team doing something crazy.
Maybe. Or they're just purposefully letting us ride so they can take pictures of this.
That is totally cool.
Yeah. Blooper reel. I love it.
I just feel like I'm going to say something. They're going to cut me right in the middle.
You're like, and now. And then the commercial. That's what happens every time. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave the studio. Right. I don't want to leave you alone, but you got it. I know you got it.
I'll start telling jokes or something nonsense.
I'll see you later.
Bye. Bye. Hi, everybody. I guess we're waiting for our next guest. I'm super excited to talk to Austin when he pops on. He's got a really great Kickstarter going right now for a series of books that I have the first 2 of. And if you like zombies, you will like these too. So I cannot wait to talk to him. See if I throw the break. We're going to throw the break. Let's do break.
To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey. And behind every page, there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
Welcome back to Talkin Shop here in the Experience. A reminder, give us some thumbs up and some hearts. It lets the producers, man, that's bad. But lets the producers know that they're doing a great job. And I mess up because I'm supposed to throw to commercial like a dummy. You know, I'm distracted. There's baseball going to start in like just 3 hours. So I know all you guys are getting ready for your sports balls also. But
I still hope they both lose.
Oh, goodness. I don't think that's possible. Sorry, Kyle. Let's get Austin on and see if he cares about sports at all. Do you care about any sports, Austin?
I'm a sportaholic, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
what
I'm excited.
Love?
I'm glad that the series is going longer than they first anticipated. I really thought that Texas and Philly was just going to crush and just 4 games and be done with it. The fact that they're going between, game 6, game 7, that's what sports fans want. You know what I mean? Yes, I'm a Tampa Bay's fan, and the Rays really just, they didn't do the job, but they had a lot of problems. So, I'm thankful for them either way. But yeah, football, English soccer, you name it. We're sporties. We're sporties here.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm one of those crazy people, just like the Cubbies, where they were fans no matter what. I've been Astros fan since you could go to the field and there would be like, not many people at the game. I didn't care.
Yeah, that's how the Rays is. If you get 10,000 people at a game, that's big for us. Just because of where it's located, it's really not a convenient place for people to get to the game. If you live in St. Petersburg, Florida, it's easy for them, but you've got a lot of bridges. If it's around 7:00 game time, traffic's horrible. It's just,
You have to really want to go.
Yeah. And they're making a new stadium, like not even 3 miles from where the first one is, but
it must be cheap land.
it's something. Yeah. Well, I mean, the city's, giving $600 million for the stadium. So it's like, all right, we're going to go there. I'm like, okay. Well, we'll go on weekends, I guess.
By the way, I just want to say, whoever you got for your headshots, they do such a great job.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's funny. Kelly Paxton is a photographer. She was an actress for a long time, and she got into photography. And she's actually with Lee Perkins. Now, Lee Perkins is my acting mentor. He's actually in the movie Reptile that's on Netflix right now. That's blowing up. So
I've seen that.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I'm so happy for him, and it's just I've been using her for 4 years now for all my headshots. So yeah, thank you. She does good stuff.
So do you find yourself, I don't want to say typecast, as that seems negative. Do you find yourself being drawn to like roles that have similarities? Like I know that some people end up in cop roles a lot or doctors a lot. Do you find yourself being like, that guy was great in that role, we're going to have him and do it from our thing?
Yeah, no, it's funny. I'm not a leading actor guy. I fully embrace that. I'm a character actor. I'm perfectly happy with that. And yeah, we're taught to learn our types. If we want to work and make money and feed ourselves, embrace your types. The cop roles. I do detective roles. I do a lot of doctor roles. I do the grumpy dad role. I can do that. Getting out of the comfort zone is where the independent film market goes. But for the big stuff, I'll be whatever you want me to be. But yeah, by and large, it's the detectives and the doctors and everything like that. Something where I can keep a beard. I keep telling them I am more than happy to shave for the role, but they're just like, no, you're good. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Do you carry headshots with you without the beard?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Whenever I tell my agents, when you submit, because I've got both types, clean shaven, send both if you can. And whenever because as an independent actor, you've got agents, which they're absolutely fantastic. My agency is great, but you can self-submit to on Actors Access. There's a couple of different really go-to places where you go: Casting Network, Actors Access, where you can submit yourself and you have your own headshot. So every time I will submit, I usually do the beard because it takes a good month for us to grow in. It's not fast, but I always write, I can either be clean shaven or with the beard, more photos on, they can look for themselves. So.
What an exciting life. It's like you've got a lot of creative things that you do. And I know that it's never boring, right?
Oh, I'm a very understanding wife, and she lets me be creative. It's weird. We talked earlier. Yeah, next year I'll celebrate 30 years of signing my first contract working comic books, and it's been mostly independent stuff. But it's 30 years is a very long time. Acting and everything's been 7 years, and even then that's kind of weird. But then you got the COVID year, so that just kind of blurred everything together. I'm I'm lucky. I'm lucky to do fun stuff. So
you've put out a bunch of really wonderful books, and
thank you.
any of Austin's piece stuff or any of the stuff he works with other people on, it's all really high quality things. It's not the 90s indie black and white that anyone that had a printer could make. Do you remember those days?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I kind of grew up on all that. That's the first company I worked with Ally Comics, and it's funny, when I declared I was going to be a comic book artist to everybody, Comic Buyer's Guide, that was the go-to thing for news. They had the want ad sections in the back, and you would look for actual jobs, people, independents. So Ally Comics was literally in my hometown, and they were just starting out, and they needed an inker. So I was lucky enough to get my first thing, and they published my first book, Seventh Millennium. It was a fantasy based on my D&D characters. But yeah, it's funny, and I forget who it was. I think Charles Barnett III talked to me about it. He was an inker for DC forever. He was like my go-to guy until I actually got behind the table. Then I was a threat or something. Anyway, he told me, whether you're working on really Marvel DC stuff or the small independents, your level of quality needs to be here regardless of what you're working on, regardless of how much you're getting paid, because that's your reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought that through, my comic books, through my backup plan, which was working in graphics for 20 years as an art director and creative director for Disney and everything like that. And now for film, it's ingrained. You want to be able to, you need to be able to stand up to Marvel and DC. Put your covers against it and your artwork against other artists. And if it doesn't, then, well, you're not going to get work. Competitive, man. It's competitive.
Oh, you're telling me. And so you also have kind of like run the gambit for, like, when I was talking to Dick Dandridge about that, having something for a bunch of different age groups, audiences is so important. And you've definitely been able to do that. Stanley the Snowman is the cutest thing. I love it so much. And you've gotten 2 issues in, correct?
So we've got issue 1, issue 2, and then the graphic novel is completed. And what happened was, it was supposed to come out in 2021, but submitting and Diamond got all messed up. So they wanted to push it and then get Simon Schuster involved, which was fantastic. So then we were all ready to go. Then the hurricane came and messed everything up. We were able to fulfill comic book stores, but the bookstores needed different guidelines. Anyway, I got screwed up. So then we're supposed to do it this year. And then the economy was bad, and they told me that no, they pushed next year. But yes, the completed story is done. It's all done. It's said and dusted.
So that's perfect. You guys have faced some challenges that no other generation has ever faced before. I mean, probably the closest things anyone else has come up against are things like the big consolidation wars of 1996 and the Marvel declaring bankruptcy and the UPS strike and all that stuff. And then in 2008, when there was such a big recessionary period, that was also super tight. But this is kind of a lot, right? To go through a pandemic and then an economic just chaos of super inflation and stuff, and having everyone feel like their game plans have been messed up so much that it's hard to catch up for what's coming up next.
Yeah, it's funny. You want to be able to take a minute and catch your breath. You haven't been really able to for like at least 5 years. I joke, and I go, boy, I picked the best time to jump into industries. I wanted to be a comic book inker in 1995. Well, okay, let's just keep plugging along. Hey, I'm going to go get in to be an actor and a director. Oh, there's a pandemic. Hey, we're all over that. Oh, now there's strikes.
I forgot you've been through that too.
Yeah, but after the stuff in comic books, I'm like, okay,
Made you very resilient.
Wait, you broke up.
So it's made you very resilient.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Comic books, while I've done a lot, there are mistakes that I made. I did not enjoy the process. I did not enjoy fellow people. I wanted to make it. Part of it was because of my first marriage and all the stuff that goes on to it, emotionally, blah, 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 blah. Regardless, I made mistakes. So when I got into film, I wanted to enjoy the entire thing, ups and downs, bookings, the whole thing, because it's absolutely amazing. I never in a million years thought that I could actually be working in film and call myself a working actor. Ever, ever, ever. So I'm thankful for all of it, man. The strikes are kind of sucky. It's like, well, okay, well, now what I'm going to do? Well, I'm going to start training. And I'm like, well, I could get in better shape. So I told my agents I'm going to get in better shape. I'm like, but don't change your look. I'm like, oh. And it's going to take a long time for me to change my look here. I just want to lose a little, a few pounds and try to get, be able to stretch a little bit more. This is very interesting. What's interesting is the pandemic has really started the ball rolling, not just for the economy and what's going on in the craziness. That's a whole other subject with government not doing what it needed to do for years and years and years. What it did was it created its own monster. The streaming services and everything that came about, they needed so much content. It gave us quote unquote work, in very strict guidelines, but then all this money was not brought back to us, to different people, the residuals, everything like that. So that's the thing. And you've got AI on top of it. Comic book people are losing their minds about AI art. The film industry is 1,000 times worse. You can get your whole body scanned and they own it forever. It's in perpetuity, and you can't, they don't need you, basically. That's part of the issue. Plus compensation, for the amount of money that they make and what they're asking in return is not that much. I mean, 600 million, 500 million, when they're making at least 4 billion a year in profit, and this is over a few years on the contract. And money does funny things, man.
Seems like a reasonable ask, and I'm sure that it all will be resolved well, because this is so important. I mean, it's things that have come up that they didn't think about them when contracts were made long ago, right? They didn't exist. The idea of someone owning your image wasn't around. So yeah, it's going to be important to keep people with a livelihood.
And people have to be able to be adaptable too. I mean, when films first started, actors, they were studio contracts. You signed for, you got a stipend, you got a weekly paycheck, and you were in this whatever movie that they wanted to, however long. Stars didn't exist. Then they switched things out, and then power agencies came in, and they drove the dollars up and everything. And the top 10% of actors got a lot of money. The smaller actors really didn't get a whole lot of money, and that's just how it's always been. And then the 2008, and blah, 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 and then the theaters crashing, and then rebounding. And then it's just, you have to be adaptable for it. You have to understand, why are you doing what you're doing? I go back to doing comic books for 30 years because I love comic books, man. I'm collecting since I was 15, I just got Doug Wagner's Click, Click, Boom. That is one of the most unique and original story ideas that I think.
Finale?
Huh?
Did you?
Oh, I can't wait. Okay. Yeah. I'm picking it up tomorrow. I haven't had, it came out last Wednesday, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. No, I haven't had a chance. I'm going to go tomorrow and pick it up. But yeah, it's just crazy stuff. And I just love it. And I love film. I like making movies. I like being in movies. I mean, now that's not, I got to switch my love into the business aspect of it because, I have to make some sort of money towards it. And Kickstarter was doing well for that for years. Now this Kickstarter's a little bit slower, and I heard it from everyone. And I'm like, well, we'll see what happens, and you know.
It's interesting. I think a tiny bit of it is because it's become a little more crowded place that it used to be. There weren't so many, offerings at one time that were, ending near each other. And it's all, it's not like there's a bunch of like trash out there that you're like, this is horrible. Who would ever back it? There's just a ton of really great stuff. So
yeah,
we're benefiting from having tons of great opportunities and choices, but also at a time when you don't have as much money. So
yeah, the money's a little bit tighter too. Yeah, it's you got a lot of the bigger names now jumping in and taking some of the dollars away. You have some publishers that are now putting some stuff into, right or wrong. You can have arguments either way about it, but it's a tool. It's yes, it was what the independent people use to make money. Now it's at the point now where Kickstarter isn't really Kickstarter anymore. It's kind of evolved into this much bigger entity where it's taking lots of bigger projects in because it can generate that sort of money. A lot of people are kind of struggling. We're doing good. I'm a little surprised we hadn't funded yet, but we're doing okay. And then you see other ones crushing it, and then you see other ones that are like, "Wow, you didn't fund. I don't understand why you didn't fund. This is absolutely gorgeous. It's just it's." So
let's talk specifically about yours, because
yes.
I have the first two of this series, and I will say again, it is amazing. Amazing. So I'm excited for the third part. Tell everybody what your push is. Is it Kickstarter just for this one new part, or can people have the choice to get the other two parts together with it? Is that still available?
Yeah, no, you can get all 3 volumes either digitally or physically for the 10-second pitch. This is a series that tells zombie stories before and how they became zombies by 3 teenagers that get trapped after being chased by zombies. And to calm them down, they pick out zombies that they see, make up stories of who they were, how long they lasted, how they died in a very funny, crazy, ironic way. And the zombie stories are in black and white, done by different art creative groups, writers and artists, but it's one continuous story. Volume 1, you have our 3 survivors trapped in a warehouse. They're actually able to get to the next building where they get trapped in a safe room. And they meet the actual owners of said safe room who help them escape to the detriment of one of the people dying. And then they get to the church where they meet the church survivors who aren't too happy to see them. And then we'll find out their final fates. So that's volume 3. But we've got great creators like, Garrett Gunn that has done stuff in the past, Chuck Brown, Stan Yak, Jonathan Hendrick, Claudio, I can't pronounce his last name, Stefano Cardoselli, Anthony, and just it goes on and on. But we also have like actors like Joe Davidson. We got, horror directors like Rick Danford, novelists like Amanda Burden. I wanted to bring people in who've never been published and give them a format also. It's one great big horror happy family. And so yeah, you can get all 3 issues digitally, physically. We've got cool reward tiers. Like we've got custom Funko Pops of all the main survivors. We have your zombie, hello, future zombie t-shirts. My wife offered to make a zombie custom handbag. We've got original art, cover art, pages that we're selling. Stan Yak offered to do a commission tier. And I just started for the last week. It's be drawn in a graphic novel tier. So if you ever wanted to be in a graphic novel, you can be one of the survivors. We'll draw your likeness in there, and we'll even actually have you get killed by a zombie. So there's that. And then if you love the zombie thing, we have the zombie horse. You can get pretty much everything. So yeah.
That's amazing.
It. Yeah.
So, and it's still under the title Zombies Are Humans Too.
Yep, Zombies Were Human Too. And it's funny. It's this is the first time we got a project we love from Kickstarter, which was great. So I was like, hey, we got a project we love. We're gonna fund in 2 days. This is gonna be super easy. Man, let me tell you something. Okay.
I think it's also the trend I've seen, which is bizarre, is that people like to wait to the last minute.
Yeah. And that's fine. I'm not doing the panic. Oh no. Poor, I mean, I have 6 days left. Plenty of time for anyone that wants to come in. And I just joking. I'm like, all we need is 3 people to buy the zombie horde and we're funded and we're good, or blah, blah. I'm just, go ahead.
You have to tell me about the handbag. I don't know. I'm not really a handbag person, but a zombie handbag, that's something else.
Right. So it's faux leather with vinyl. There's vinyl brains. So you got the zombie with the brains, and the other side is a future zombie patch. And it's a Hugo style handbag. I think we're going to have a strap for it too.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty neat. My wife's very crafty, so she does all that sort of stuff.
I love that so much. Mm-hmm. It's like I don't know how many other comic book Kickstarters have a handbag as an option for.
I know. We try to spread it out. We got metal prints of all the parody covers we did, like Reservoir Dead for Reservoir Dogs, the Forrest Gump zombie one, the Shaun of the Dead zombie one, and then we have the zombified Grease poster. We made as metal prints. Where I'm doing remarks on whatever we're offering that. Yeah.
Perfect. So for anybody that is interested in that, you're just gonna go. It's pretty easy Kickstarter. Zombies were humans too. You can totally find it pretty easy.
Yeah. Very easy, yeah. Okay. And for anyone who's going to Spooky Empire this weekend, I will see you there. I've got my film, A Killer in the Dead, screening at the festival this weekend, which is great. And then I'll be a part of the creator track. We're going to be doing I'll be doing some panels. I think 3, 2, 1 Friday, 2 Saturday, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I'll be hanging out all weekend.
Was it your film that I remember you saying that your female actor had been nominated for some pretty cool awards?
Yeah, she won best actor award. It was for a horror festival in Germany, Terror on Tuesday, which was cool. It's won a couple of best horror films over in Asia, which is great, and it's nominated for best horror film for Red Fox International Film Festival, which is in Canada. So yeah, it's international. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're going international, and we're starting to do pre-pro on a feature for it. The script is done. I have a financier that wants to put some money towards it. We're waiting till the strike ends, and then we'll figure out exactly if we can meet my budget or if I have to cut things. But yeah, hopefully we'll be going to Georgia to shoot. So that's the plan.
Where all good spooky things have been made for a while.
Amen to that. Oh yeah.
Do you do it out of the studios that are there in Atlanta?
And there's more being built. Lionsgate's building one. Paramount's now building one. It's 55,000 square feet. Whew. But Tyler Perry has like 2 million square feet. His is the biggest one. His studio lots are just a little bit smaller than the ones in Hollywood, I think.
I know that in Atlanta there is a place where they shot a whole bunch of stuff, including Black Panther 2. But it really is a place where they make fiber optics. But most of the building has been abandoned and is just like empty labs and just as spooky as all get out.
Oh, I can imagine. You know what's really cool is a lot of people have the LED screens now to film against, like what they did with The Mandalorian. It's a big round LEDs. There's a few studios in Tampa that now own it. Not quite as big, but a fairly good size. I did a couple of commercials in front of an LED screen, and they built just like one was a jungle, one was like space, the other one was like I was a violinist or something. It was so cool when you saw the final thing. It literally looked legit, like I was there. So technology, man, great,
so crazy. All right, everybody, definitely back this Kickstarter. Find something on there that you like. It doesn't take us all spending a ton of money. It just takes us all spending a little money. See, we'll make everyone's dreams come true, keep them going, showing them support. Thank you so much, Austin. I love getting to hang out with you.
Yeah, Jen, thank you so much. We need to do like a signing or something, man. We need to do something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll make it work.
Yeah, we'll figure out what's going on next year.
Yes, definitely. Because we're making a move here at the end of November, so.
That's right. You're going to a bigger spot. Am I correct on that?
Actually kind of downsizing, because it just feels like that's what everything is aiming toward, and then we'll resize up again when the economy makes itself happier again.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Stick around. We got awesome programming coming up next on The Experience. See you later.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere The Experience is all the time.